Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, well, this is a different tone this week. A big, lopsided, dominating Buffalo Bills victory to talk about today. Welcome to Talking Buffalo, part of the Blue Wire Network. I'm your host, Patrick Moran. Thank you for locking in, whether you're watching this on video, whether you're listening to this on the audio side. We're recording this late afternoon Sunday, so this is dropping on the audio side Monday morning, which means, as always, on Mondays, I'm joined by my good buddy, Tone Pucks. Like I said, you were here for the game last Monday against the Jets. We didn't watch it together today, but a completely different tone when it comes to just our moods going into this episode. What's going on, dude?
Is the fact that you've used tone twice now and it's my name like lost on you? Because certainly the first time that I heard it, I was like, where's he fucking going with this? You know what I mean? Different tone of thing. Yeah, man. Whole lot of different talking points and a whole different mood behind him, man. I said last week that you could conceivably, it was one of those games where you can have 5 to 7 different type of calls coming in from people complaining about various things, and not one of them would be wrong. And the script is flipped this week because you could just compliment probably 8 to 10 facets of their game and have them all be right.
And we're going to do that. We're going to do that today.
How exciting,
man.
Yo, because for some reason or another, I dove right into all that Bill shit. And like, what I really wanted to say is, man, are we just going to have to sit here and talk about, the Bills for like the entire time again? Is this what these have to be?
We did a little retro last week.
Or like in the last 5 minutes, we'll transition from like, the offensive line play and be like, well, speaking of that, what is your favorite John Cougar Mellencamp song? As you seamlessly introduced last week. I need some other shit.
Show prep is at a minimum this week.
Come on.
You're lucky I got out
the way, because all we're gonna do is sit there and talk about how great the Bills are for 45 minutes.
Well, isn't it better than talking about how shitty they were?
I don't know. It's a little boring here, but people like it, and maybe we can do it entertainingly.
I gotta say, so Saturday I did the Cover One podcast. It was part of the Main Street Block Party, which, by the way, it was a really good time, and a lot of guests were there. Nate Gary, Bulldog from WGR, Captain Fitzgerald from the Buffalo News, Alex Brasky, Bills reporter in Batavia. And everyone had predictions, like everyone, there were guests at different times. And I remember Bulldog specifically, and this was maybe to me the most surprising part about today's game. I'm not really surprised that the Bills won or that the score was lopsided. I kind of feel like most people were calling for that. But Bulldog specifically said, when asked how the game was going to play out, he goes, I anticipate getting lots of phone calls to WGR talking about Josh Jacobs going for a $150 in a 17-point Bills victory. And
I like it.
Yeah. That's what he thought was coming.
It made sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that obviously did not happen. Just an absolute shellacking, quite frankly, put on by Buffalo, and needed 1-2 on Sunday. Before we talk about any individual players or, our opinions on some of the more important aspects of this game, let me run down some team stats, because this is just,
oh, good.
This demonstrates
my favorite
how lopsided this game really was. Total yards, 450 to 240 in favor of the Bills. Rushing yards, the Bills ran for $183. And this, again, maybe the most surprising thing for me, only surrendered 55 yards on the ground. First downs, Bills 29 to 13. Time of possession, over 40 minutes. 40 minutes, 4 seconds, the Bills possessed the ball. And then turnovers, 3-0 in favor of Buffalo. Just a really dominant game after a very bad start.
Yeah, man. I mean, following last week's game against the Jets, my approach, my short-term approach to things was you've left yourself with only one option, and that's to go get 2 W's against inferior opponents. All right. And they got halfway to that today. And everything that you mentioned makes for a hell of a way to get there. I mean, those are like just perfect stats. Those are my personal ideal Madden stats, because I still love to run the ball. I still like to bang the ball in Madden. You know what I mean? I'm not a chucker. And those stats were fabulous. And I'll jump out on it here because I can already tell that I'm not paying any attention to my notes. I'm going to miss half of them.
Yeah.
So when something comes to mind, I just got to go. Loved the running back usage today, man.
Yeah.
Those stats that you rattled off, all right, for running the football. We may have had, days like that over the course of the last few years, but how many of those days were a product of probably, 60 to 80 of them being by way of Josh? Yeah. All right. Not the case today, man. We had our main back go over a buck.
Yep.
And unlike last week, when I think something that we weren't terribly critical of, or anybody was terribly critical of, maybe they felt a little surprised by it. I know I did. But it was the primary usage of Cook. You know what I mean? Like, it was a lot of James Cook. And today, whether or not, it was built in and something that they wanted to do going into the game, but today it wasn't that. All 3 guys, all right, all 3 that I think we like a lot, had roles, all right? Cook goes for the 100. The other 2 both get touchdowns that mattered.
Yeah.
All right. They got touchdowns that mattered. They got yards that mattered. They weren't bullshit garbage time yards.
Right.
All right. After they were already up 30, and it was like, all right, let's bring now we're going to spell James Cook, bring in, Latavius Murray. And that's where Murray goes and gets his 10 for 35. Nah, it was during the course of the game. All right. When things still mattered, Latavius Murray was huge on that, albeit very short drive, to get on the board. And then Harris, had very meaningful snaps in very obvious Harris type, places on the field. And then that doesn't even get to the fact that your RB1 rattled off a buck and a quarter. So that to me was just a really, really interesting and encouraging sign, not for people who want to see, 4 receiver sets and a ton of Josh.
Right. Yeah.
There's guys who love that shit still, want this team to live and die by it. But man, if you're going to carry the 3 of them and all of them seem to have roles and still, some tread left on their tires, man, I got no problem with this type of utilization of 3 running backs.
I think, first of all, that's a great take. And I think you're 100% right.
Damn straight.
I
got more.
There's 3 facets of this game that I really like today, not even including Josh Allen, who obviously played very well. And I'll tell you, today proved me wrong because you just talked about there's still people out there that want 4 receiver sets and chucking the ball all over the place. And I've kind of been of that mindset. I think we might have talked about it last week where I said, when you're playing the Chiefs, if you let them run the ball on you, that's a W. You know what I mean? You're taking the ball out of Mahomes' hands. Today showed that that's a bullshit theory because this is the blueprint for a really good offense. You hit on all 3 running backs, and I'm glad you said it too. It wasn't like some kind of like 45-yard garbage run by Harris or Murray, near the end of the game to pad the stats. 228 yards from scrimmage, the Bills' 3 running backs accounted for today. Cook, 17 carries, $123. Also caught 4 passes for 36 yards. So 159 all-purpose, 159 scrimmage yards. Yeah, for sure. He looked good. He looked like he had juice today. And to your point, before we even talk about the other 2, using all 3 running backs like they did, maybe that gives James Cook more energy, more juice later in the games. Because he looked better to me in the 4th quarter than he did in the 1st quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the play counts will end up being. But again, he seemed to be on the field a lot last week. And there was that one play, I don't think it ever became a big deal. I saw like one other person complaining about it on Twitter, but there is that one play on like 3rd and 2 or whatever where he wasn't about to dip the shoulder on 3 charging Jets, and it looked a little soft, but he had also been on the field for a long time at that point. So did that matter today? Is that why we got a fresher James Cook, or did we just have an absolute beat the shit, Raiders defense, which, by the way, their strategy going into this week is one of the best I've ever seen. All right. They're going to practice their first drive all fucking week long and just forget about everything else. All right. Thank God they played team. And, jokes aside, all right, right after that drive and Buffalo's 3 and out, which started with 2 runs that had me scratching my head. We just talked about, the encouraging signs of the running game, but I was like, God, this guy goes from a 2nd and 13 run last week in overtime and then opens up run to start the game.
I know.
I'm like, I was ready to, that was the early narrative, but hold on. I just gotta finish this point, which I know it takes forever. But man, I am a believer that games can change on a play. All right. I am a believer that, games can play out much differently if something had or hadn't happened a certain way. And you're just coming off a 3 and out after getting absolutely slapped around on your opening defensive series. McDaniel just owns McDermott. Mm-hmm. And then Greg Rousseau makes what I mean, again, most people will just point to the dominance the rest of the way and say, you can't point to a play like that. It probably would have played out the same way. I'm not a believer in that. I'm not a believer that it necessarily plays out the same way.
You talked about momentum last week.
All right, you could be looking potentially at a 10-0 deficit. I mean, I know they weren't in field goal position yet, but, they were certainly playing offensive football with confidence that absolutely went away after that pick. But, it's not inconceivable that they jumped out to a 10-0 lead, and you're not looking at a 28-yard field to tie the game. All right, you're looking at a 75-yard field. All right, down 2 scores. That's a big difference, man. That's a huge difference.
I agree 100% to your point. I tweeted this because I agree with you. I said, for me, the singular play of the game was first quarter, Bills down 7-0, and DaQuan Jones pressure leads to a great INT from Terrell Bernard. I didn't tweet that Rizzo tipped it, which you're right about too. But anyway, it was a nice catch by Bernard. I said that settled down Buffalo after opening Raiders TD and subsequent Bills 3 and out. Bills looked shaky early, and then that play happened. So,
as you can tell, I wasn't on Twitter much during this game. I wasn't on shit during this game. I may have listened to half of it, man. I'm going to actually, hold on. I'm going to even come even cleaner than that. I haven't seen the Russo tip Bernard interception play.
Really?
I was on my way back from Brockport this morning, and I timed it bad, so I missed like the first half of the first quarter.
Yeah, DaQuan Jones, it was him on the play, man. He just had great pressure that forced Garoppolo to throw the ball early. Rizzo got a finger on, and then Terrell Bernard made a really nice interception. I'm going to talk about those because I want to go back to the running backs, though, because like I said, we highlighted James Cook. Damian Harris, 7 carries, 33 yards, and a touchdown. He also had a nice 41-yard kickoff return in the first half as well. And then Latavius Murray, 6 for 22 with a touchdown early in the game, and also caught 2 passes for 9 yards. Yeah, the Bills running back is a strength of this football team right now. It makes me wonder if Nyheim Hines didn't get hurt, would he be on this football team right now? Because it seems to me that today was when you go into the offseason, Brandon Beane says, I want my running back room, and this is what I want out of my running backs in a game. I'm not sure that Nyheim Hines, if he didn't get hurt, would even be on this roster. Who do you not play right now among these 3 running backs if Hines were? And obviously, this is a hypothetical that we'll never know the answer to. But I don't know. I guess I'm just saying I really love the running back usage today. And I was wrong about the Bills. I didn't like them running the ball more. But if you're going to run it like you did today, man, do it.
Well, I'm still hung up on the question about how it would play out with a healthy Nyheim Hines.
Yeah.
I mean, so much so that I'm trying to figure out the timing of it was Hines down when they grabbed Murray, but I don't think that's the case. I think Murray was brought in, all right, as insurance to Damian Harris because they wanted to be sure that for, all the way through December and January, all right, they had a back who could bang. All right. And Harris was the first choice. And then somewhere along the line, they said, I mean, he's just sitting out there. I want to make sure I can run my Damian Harris plays if I lose Damian Harris.
Right.
So that's why they went and grabbed Murray. I think Murray, may have made the roster. They may have tried to sneak him to the practice squad, that sort of thing. If Hines was healthy. And I honestly, I think as much as I liked watching such a big man, score the touchdown and things like that, I think Harris just does what Murray does if there's no Latavius Murray in the lineup today. Mm-hmm. I think instead of going 8 for whatever you said Harris was, just maybe not completely take on the load of Murray, but I think Harris has has enough in the tank to probably carry the football 15 times.
Yeah.
All right. So I think, and there was a shift. Then there was a shift in part of the offense when you lost Hines, because I think they were going to use Hines a lot the way we're seeing Deontay Hardy early.
Sure.
So, and now you're 2/3 of your running back stable are bangers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they came into training camp or Hines was gone already, but I don't know that they started their 23 season philosophy thinking 2/3 of our running back room are going to be bangers.
You feel good enough about Harris and Murray, or one or the other, or both of them right now, that if something were to happen to Cook for whatever reason, whether it's injury, whether it's just for whatever reason, a bad dip in play, you're confident in these guys that they could be out there on the field and the offense isn't going to suffer? Now, the Raiders, this is just one game. Just like we shouldn't overreact too much to last week. Let's not overreact too much to this week either. But I don't know. I have a confidence about Damian Harris and Latavius Murray that I don't think I had the last couple of years, like when Zach Moss was the backup running back, or even Singletary is the starter. I like these guys if they can stay healthy more. I think all three of these running backs are better than the Devin Singletary that they've had the past couple of years.
Damian Harris and Latavius Murray would represent a just fine 1-2 punch. All right. For your running backs, but the explosiveness that you lose. All right. Especially if we start to depend on it a little bit, if we start to need it a little bit, and we needed it, well, not to win today, but we saw it today.
Sure.
That's for sure. The explosiveness that you would lose would matter. It would matter a ton. You got to become, then now you got to probably throw the ball 5 or 7 more times a game to get it in the hands of explosive guys, because, when he's not playing Buffalo on a, ridiculously windy Monday night, I don't know that anyone ever really attributes, explosiveness to Damian Harris.
Let me ask you this, because we talked last Sunday and Monday, and we obviously spent all of our time, talking about an ugly Jets loss. So we didn't preview the Raiders at all, but
not a bit of Josh yet. Sorry. I got to come at you right here. I don't know where the clock is on how long it's been.
18 minutes, and we haven't talked about
I got the side tap. I got the leg tap right there. if I was faded, to those not watching, I got the leg tap for sitting far away right there. Yo, seriously though, man, we haven't even mentioned Josh. Who was
and we're not going to yet.
It was perfect today.
If we would have previewed the Raiders, if we would have had a podcast later in the week, and I would have asked you, I would have said, Tone, short of the Bills, the self-inflicted wounds, because any team will lose when you beat yourselves. But what would have been the one factor with the Raiders where you said, if this happens, this could be a really bad day for Buffalo?
If they're stars
coming into the game,
if they're stars, all right. If we struggle with their stars, all right. Yeah. And I think you're leading me into a Josh Jacobs and the run defense conversation.
Not yet,
but I put Adams there too. You know what I mean? I think Devontae Adams is a star in this league. And Jacobs, I thought last year's the numbers may have been a little inflated. I don't know that he scares me, more than maybe 3 other running backs in the league. But yeah, man, if their stars played like stars, when I saw that Myers was out, I was like, that's favorable.
Sure.
I was like, man, that's going to help. That's going to help. And aside from that first drive, which I was just like, what is happening here, man? Come on. Were we not all like that? But aside from that, they had an answer for all of it.
I agree with what you say about the Stars, but I would say you mentioned two of them. The one that I would have been most concerned about, where I said if things, go wrong for Buffalo, it's going to be because Max Crosby dominated the game.
Yeah,
he's one of those
star. I meant also I included the star on the defensive side of the ball.
He's the kind of guy. He's one of those handful of defensive ends who could just wreck a game. And this leads to my second of three big, not counting Josh Allen, things that I love most about this team today. And I don't know if we give the credit to Aaron Kromer, how much goes to Ken Dorsey, but Spencer Brown on Max Crosby scared the shit out of me all week. And that never, and I mean never, materialized in the least on Sunday. Spencer Brown did a great job, and they did a lot of chip blocking with mainly Dawson Knox. Quentin Moore's got a lot of steps, and I think potentially at least some of it was for that reason, so he could be an extra body. But anyway, Max Crosby did not affect this game whatsoever. Coming into this game, besides Jacobs running wild and Adams, like you said, on the offensive side, Max Crosby scared the shit out of me on the defensive side. But man, this might have been Spencer Brown. We'll have to, see the film and what the grades come out this week, but this might have been Spencer Brown's best game of his career, as far as I'm concerned. And great scheming and blocking designs by the Bills today. Huge.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out when the guys who love the film start to throw it out there. If I'm not mistaken, I think a lot of guys who love the film are also guys who love them from Spencer Brown. So we'll find out, if he was dominant. You ever think of this though, with like just, all-time great rushers with, Crosby not being there yet, but clearly, an absolute stud in his prime, right now. You ever see those guys just have days off though? I mean, honestly, man,
sure.
Just like,
we even saw with Bruce every
15 absolutely. Yeah, you get 15, 16 sack guys that are just like, this tackle's going to take credit for the game that they had, but they just didn't bring it today. We'll see. That's the cool part about being out there. Now, I do think McDermott's always been a guy, all right, who demanded, that attention be paid to studs on the defensive side of the ball. All right. Chipping, all those little things. And that's one of the things I like about McDermott's thoroughness. He's just a thorough dude. He's not an offensive guy, but he's also a guy who's never, all right, going to not be, involved in planning, strategies around stars and just demanding that of his coaches. So if that was the role, if that's played a big part today, then that's just collective, good coaching staff, preparation. And that's why I think, we're on the plus side of head coaches.
Yeah. The offensive line generally, I thought the entire line played good. Look, when you run the ball for 183 yards and Josh Allen throws 37 times, and I think he got sacked twice. One of them was just an absolutely perfectly timed blitz. So it was just nothing that Josh could do about it. I just thought the offensive line, whether it was running the ball, throwing the ball, was huge today. And then the third thing, before we even get to Josh, is, and maybe this is another difference between this week and the first game, I thought Gabe Davis was excellent today. 6 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown. I don't know if you saw it because, again, you said you missed some of the first half, but it was a offsides penalty on the Jets. So it was kind of a free play. So Josh chucked it. It was a nice 19-yard, really nice catch with Gabe's hands. What else did he have? He had a touchdown. He had 3 catches in traffic. He bowled somebody over to move the chains, which is something I hadn't seen a ton of with Gabe Davis over the last 3 years. I'll tell you, even going to training camp, I remember I had a headline for one of the episodes we did, and it said Gabe Davis is dominating training camp. I thought he was great in camp, and it just looked like he was catching the ball differently than he has his first 3 years or 4 years with the Bills. I don't know. He wasn't a big factor in the Jets game. The one time they did score that touchdown, though, he had that big slant catch for 20-some yards against the Jets. And today, he was a factor. I mean, he makes this offense go, I feel like. When you got a good number 2 option behind Stephon Diggs, maybe not by himself, he doesn't make the offense go. Someone looked at me like, what the fuck you say? But anyway, I mean, a productive Gabe Davis makes this offense significantly better. And it showed today.
Yeah, that look didn't have any of that in you. I was in space, actually. I was like, something else happened.
I talked too long. You just going
No, it really wasn't that. I had a fun Gabe Davis conversation before I came in here to do this. So here's my completely naked eye take on Gabe Davis. All right. I've got nothing to back this up, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I'm using route tree is even a little sketchy for me because I don't even really know what those are. All right. But here's what I think. All right. I feel like if you try to game plan something to get Davis involved. All right. What you're really looking for is, your 3, 5, 7 steps out of Josh, clean pocket. The receivers run something in the route tree. All right. Maybe something combo based or whatever. And that's how you plan to get a receiver involved. I think that might not be the best that we see. All right. From Gabe Davis. All right. I think he's someone who may struggle to separate, especially in the short to intermediate of the route tree. The best clean pocket, all right, play goes as planned. Gabe Davis play is the fucking post. All right.
Yeah.
It's the post where I'm starting to see, and believe me, all right, there's probably stats out there that totally refute this. All right. But what I'm starting to feel like I see is when we have breakdowns and improvisation, okay, that's when Gabe really seems to be at his best sometimes, man. You saw it today.
Yeah.
The touchdown was on an improvisation. I got to use a different word there so I don't have to say that every time. But the touchdown was on a roll, okay? Play that he broke for 40 or whatever was on a roll. I think the one that you're referring to where he makes the catch all hands.
Yeah.
All right. Was a breakdown where he had to come find, holes in the defense. So I don't know if there's any truth to that shit. All right.
I think you're right.
This is an entirely naked eye assessment. And in the world of Sabres Twitter, you're getting killed for it. Okay. You don't make naked eye assessments in Sabres Twitter unless you want to be absolutely rolled down the plaza. Okay. But sometimes it's allowed in Bill's Twitter. And that's what I see. I see a receiver who doesn't separate great in the route tree. All right. Until he starts, going over the top. But man, I see a guy who makes plays for his quarterback. So if I'm Josh Allen, man, especially, with the height on Gabe's side and all that, never ignoring Steph, of course. But when things start breaking down, I'm looking for number 13, man, because I've made some big plays with him. And I even referenced these when I was talking about it just before coming in here. But remember the Indy playoff game, the Phillip Rivers Indy playoff game? Those fucking toe taps that he had.
Yeah.
That's where Gabe does it, man. That's where Gabe does it. Nice to see him do it today.
All right, I am back here with Total Bucks. We were discussing a big Buffalo Bills victory over the Vegas Raiders, who improved to 1-1 on the season. All right, so I've been doing football recaps for years now. I don't think I've ever had an episode where we spent less time talking about a Bills victory over the first 30 minutes or so of a show than today with Josh Allen. And it's not that Josh didn't play well. It's just that we're really impressed with the running game, with Gabe Davis, with the offensive line, with the blocking schemes that clearly worked against the Raiders today. I thought Josh Allen played excellent. I don't know any other way, no fancy words to say it, but it was important to come back this week and for him to play well. 31-37. I'm going to read out his actual numbers. 31-37, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Do you know what my favorite, and this is a made-up stat, it's not a real stat, I guess, but my personal favorite stat was, not counting a penalty where he threw an interception, so that play was wiped. I don't think Josh Allen threw an interceptable ball the entire game. I don't think there was one play. You know how he gets away with a lot of shit? He got away with a couple of mistakes against the Jets, even not counting the 3. There was not one play where a Raiders defensive back had his hands on the ball and maybe should have come down with an interception. I mean, he threw the ball away. We saw that a handful of times. He was out of the pocket, just gave up on the play, threw it away, which is a good thing. I'm yelling, good job, at the TV. But yeah, wise decision making, throwing the ball away when it wasn't there, taking the checkdowns the entire game. The only time he threw a deep ball the entire game, as far as I can remember, was to Stephon Diggs, which was not technically a completion, but it was a pass interference that led to a touchdown inside the 5-yard line. So that was actually a successful throw down the field, and he hit Gabe Davis on the 19-yarder. But anyway, he was patient. He took the entire game, what the defense gave him, and then when the defense started forcing stuff, that's when he went a little more on the attack. I just thought this was an efficient, smart game, and I was wrong last week. I said this guy can't be a game manager. He shouldn't be. Dead ass wrong, because he was a great game manager today.
Yeah, I like it. I like calling him a game, identifying that he's capable of being a game manager. All right. I don't ever want to be a game manager, but I'll tell you this. And it's not like it's a pouncing on by any stretch, but there were 2 balls today that made me kind of say, yeah, man, this is a game of inches. All right. Something happens there and it's ugly. The incomplete 4th down pass to Dawson Knox. All right. That was double coverage. All right. I'm okay. I'm going to trust my guy to go up. By the way, man, when I saw that Knox had a fucking shirt on with Josh's face on it today, walking into the locker room, I don't know if you saw that.
No.
I immediately wanted to bet anytime Dawson Knox touchdown. I was
you would have won.
I was just too lazy. I was at a baseball game. But anyways, that was risky. All right. And he tried to force it into double coverage to Kincaid. All right. On a bit of a different play. I think it was only a 1st down, but definitely a forced football in the end zone into double coverage. And that's never a good idea. But quarterbacks get away with those all the time. So sure. I ain't trying to dog them. It was near perfect. It was, and it really was. It's everything you would have wanted to see today. Like if he just comes out and has one of those games where he's just old Josh and he's just whipping it all over the place and guys are open and that would be fun. That would be fun. But seeing him do it and the whole offense do what they did today and reaping the rewards of that is probably the preferred result if you would have asked me the perfect scenario today.
You'd have to get nitpicky to criticize him today. I mean, you can find a play here like you talked about. Maybe when he tried to hurdle laps near the end zone, I'm like, why didn't you he would put his shoulder down, he would have bowled himself into the end zone. That was a mistake. But again, you're just looking to find something to criticize if you're going there. There's just so little to criticize. What did you think of his body language? Just his mindset, his attitude today? Didn't he look like he was having fun on the football field, where last Monday did not look fun for him whatsoever? It was stressful, anxiety. Last week, it felt like when you looked at his face. This week, he's smiling, he's laughing, he's fired up. Of course, they're winning. That makes things easier. But that's the Josh Allen that I want to see, man. The guy who's just a football player out there having fun. And it looked that way today to me. I thought that was a big deal. Maybe it's not.
It is a big deal because I was early to the body language conversation last week, man. I mean, it was one of the first things I said when Josh's name came up on last week's post game. So I don't know that I was paying as much attention to it on the plus side today, but he certainly had a lot of reason to have better body language today. Here's the thing with Josh as it relates to the turnovers, man, because I was very prepared to have a conversation about, Dorsey and Daboll, but not the X's and O's side, but rather how they managed Josh's side, how well they reached Josh. And that was not going to be a favorable conversation for Ken Dorsey. All right. That was going to be all about Daboll doing a great job at it and the sort of characteristics that I think a dude like Daboll has that Dorsey doesn't, that dudes like. But whether it was Dorsey, I think it may have been just as much, all right, local and national naysayers as anything else. There have been times where when Josh hits, turnover rock bottom, okay, he pulls out somebody or something, all right, helps him shift course, all right, when it becomes too big an issue. The first occurrence, that comes to my mind is when Dorsey just blew him up. I'm sorry. Daboll just blew him up, all right, against New England early on in his career. He was just giving the ball away. And he was still young and he wasn't reading things well yet and stuff like that. So maybe it came as a little bit of a surprise, but I think Daboll's thought on that was, all right, I get the limitations that you have right now, but Jesus, man, you're just fucking handing the football over to the other team.
Right.
And the cameras didn't miss it, man. All right. Yeah. The cameras didn't miss it. Daboll chewed him, and that changed that was an enormous point in Josh Allen's career. All right. As it relates to taking care of the football. All right. It was a big turning point in his career. And it's because, he got lit up. He got coached hard and he got coached out of it. And I think we may have just scored the same. We're shaking. Camera's shaking. It's not. Is it a quake?
No.
Is it a quake?
We're good.
Are you sure? I could go check. I think it may this time around. I think it may have been, the fact that he's a superstar now and he's a national story. And the national story was, dude, this dude might not be what we think he is because he turns the ball over too damn much. Josh Allen's going to pay attention to that shit.
Is there a chance that maybe long term, as much as it sucked, that opening week may have been a blessing in disguise? You know what I mean? Long term, if you look at it that way, I kind of feel that way right now.
Do I need a toe tap to come closer?
Yeah, get a little closer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a big chance that it ends up working out in our favor.
Yeah. I think he knows. Yeah. I can't do that again. I can't play that badly again. I can't force the issue that much again. So yeah, maybe long term.
I'm almost sorry the lesson came so early in the season.
Sure. Yeah, sure. And maybe if they win that game, he's like, I got away with it, whatever. Again, we kind of talked about that. I don't want to go down that road again. Yeah, just a great game from him. And for a second straight week, I thought the defense played really, really strong. I mean, really strong. Minus the first drive. I mean, that was a little stressful, a little worrisome right off the bat.
I was driving still.
First play of the game, Ed Oliver, beautiful 4 yards. I mean, he literally bullied. Greg Van Roden. I can't believe he's starting for the Raiders.
Is that our guy? Is that our guy?
Yeah. Because I remember, I was like, when we lost in Miami last year, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, they're down to Greg Van Roden on the line right now. He started the game for them. I don't know if he's their starter. I don't know if someone's out with an injury or whatever. But anyway, Ed Oliver just literally bowled him into Jacobs for a 4-yard loss. But then the next 4 plays, I think 2 or 3 of them were to Devontae Adams. And bam, 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 touchdown.
And the screen,
the Bills go 3
screen on 2nd and 14
yeah,
man. It's funny, like almost after every single play, I was like, all right, well, this is the direction that the conversation's going to go. Oh, wait, no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It takes 4 quarters. Well, no, not today. It took about 2.5 quarters today.
Yeah, for sure.
But eventually, it plays out.
The Bills, so anyway, they go 3 and out, like we talked about, and then the Raiders got the ball again. We're like, all right, well, this defense needs to make a play. And they did. And that was the play where DaQuan Jones, who I thought was awesome on Sunday, pressures him, leads to the Rizzo tip, and a great play by Terrell Bernard. And I'm going to tell you, man, I'm very low on Terrell Bernard. I thought it was by default that he started. I don't think he earned shit. I thought Terrell Dotson just couldn't handle being a starter, and I was really critical of him. And I thought it was just, I don't think he's a starting caliber middle linebacker. And 2 weeks in, I'm starting to think I was wrong, because I thought he played better than I thought against the Jets, and he played good in the second half against the Jets. And I thought Terrell Bernard was an asset on Sunday, not a liability. That was a nice interception. It wasn't just a gift that fell and hit him in his jersey. You know what I mean? It was a nice play. He's shooting gaps. He's making plays. And I'm not afraid to be wrong about something. Like, I'm not going to keep doubling, tripling down when I have a take just because I want to be right. I thought I came into the season saying this guy stinks. And now I'm like, where's the drop off from him and Tremaine? And now it's only 2 games, and they played 2 pretty shitty offenses. Well, not shitty, but, and by the way, I want to mention the Raiders came into this game with the top ranked offensive line, top graded offensive line in the entire NFL based on week 1. And the Bills' defensive line just utterly dominated them. But anyway, back to Terrell Bernard. I think I'm going to be wrong. This guy's looked pretty good to me. He's looked, at a minimum, he's looked like an adequate starting middle linebacker right now, for sure.
And we're this far in and haven't even talked about the sweet ass Matt Milano interception. I'm as you're saying that, I'm getting annoyed with the fact that I allowed Chris Brown to basically tell me who the star of that Bernard interception was, because I'm driving, right? I'm driving and I'm listening to it. I ain't as bad as sorry. I can't take shots, we're pandering Pat over here, but he's not as bad as that Sabre guy. His name Dunleavy just does not describe a good hockey game. But Brown was all about Rousseau's play on that. All right. And now you've talked about Daquan Jones' role in the play and Bernard. The interception not just falling into his lap, because that's how I heard that play. Like, basically, I heard that play like Rousseau used his 9-foot wingspan to go 12 feet up in the air, deflected into Bernard's hands.
Well, he did have a hand.
That's how I heard it. Maybe that's more a me problem than a Chris Brown problem.
Well, Daquan Jones forced him to get rid of the ball early. So, I mean, Rousseau did play a part. Yeah. And by the way, Greg Rousseau, man, you want to talk about another guy who's just playing really well. Again, no sacks, just like the Jets game.
Oh, that one, though.
Half a yard.
One where he got him right there, that's a good collapse down, man. All right. I mean, you see a lot of guys coming off that edge who give up on the quarterback when he steps up, and Rousseau collapsed nicely there, man.
He did. And he also did a good set in the edge again, made a nice run stop again.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he is. He is a good player.
He's a good player.
He looks like he's still maturing. Leonard Floyd, a little more quiet today. Yeah, he has a foot injury too. We'll see how that plays out. But anyway, Rousseau's been solid. AJ Epinesa had a big play. He knocked the pass down on third down. We could just go up and down the line with the defense playing good. But going back again to because you said I threw you off about the play itself. Terrell Bernard, I mean, what's your take on him these first couple weeks?
I don't know.
I look at Jermaine Evans in Chicago.
And I still see him running into a pile up. All right, while his what it looks to be his gap responsibility goes for like 30 yards. I still see a couple of those early jet plays, and sure. I haven't quite come off them yet. Maybe it's because I didn't see today's interception live yet, but I'm not ready there. I'm not ready there. As long as I'm still so worried about him against the run. I think he probably covers really well, and I think the Bills have just said that is who we're going to be, man. That is what the NFL is right now at that position, and that is what we are going to be. So I'm cool if with him in pass coverage, I think. But man, getting up around the line of scrimmage, he blitzed against the Jets last week. Like, fuck you doing with him just running it like he's like 225 pounds. I don't care what what they want to put him at. So I have no idea yet, man. I have no idea yet. But this you made this point about the defensive line today. If the tackles are as effective as they were today, and I think McDermott, he's had it in years past, but I think McDermott has as good a rotation, rolls out as good a 8-9 dudes as he's ever had. All right, on this roster. And maybe like we talked about it, like who with Cook, maybe the usage of the running back depth helped keep Cook fresh.
Sure.
Same might be true of why we're seeing those plays out of Daquan Jones and shit like that, man. I mean, we got a legitimate 5 there. And if we don't like what we see, if we're worried about the run and the Raiders are a team to, that was worth worrying about, then all of a sudden, Poona Ford, all right, sees a little more burn. Now that's going to change that dynamic of what his play time would have been versus what it probably became. Might have changed when we got up so big. But I remember, again, I'm only listening, but a point was made at the start of the Raiders' second drive to say that like Ford and Settle were in there. So, that just Ford, we're all a little surprised that he's 4th or 5th, because he was a fun name they're in free agency, but there's a place for him, man. And that place is, when someone's gonna, be a big run threat to you. I don't know what Washington, I don't know how much it's Gibson, how much it's Robinson, or, who they're going to fear on that side. But it's nice to know that you've got support for Jones. All right. If A, injury, or B, he just, he needs to blow.
We're 2 weeks in. If I were to ask you your top 3 Bills players through the first 2 games, I think Diggs would be an easy answer. I think Greg Rousseau would be an easy answer as well. Well, I was about to say something.
I know who you're going to miss.
No, I was going to say, I still am saying Ed Oliver, but now I'm selling Matt Milano short.
Of course.
I'm selling Matt Milano short. He just straight up took that ball right out of Josh Jacobs' hands. He's got 2 picks in 2 games, man. He's on pace for 17 picks this year. But no, seriously, Ed Oliver, I thought, again, played really good both games. And he's a guy that I have been kind of harsh on in years past as a streaky, and maybe still being streaky because he got to do this for a longer stretch right now. But, a splashy, streaky player who just disappears too much at times. But he ain't doing no disappearing these first 2 games. I think Ed Oliver has been really, really, really good.
Yeah, it's an incomplete grade for me. I just don't think I've been as dialed in as, as necessary to make a comment on his play. I mean, are we sure? Are we sure you're maybe not just still having first play of the game bias?
No, I'm not. He was in the backfield a lot. He was in the backfield a lot. I don't have his stats in front of me, but trust me, he was in the backfield a lot. Some guys like Bernard and Ed Oliver, like I like to criticize, like I like to go to my go-tos, like, these are the guys I like to blame for every little thing. And I'm just not seeing it with Ed Oliver, man. He's never going to be Quinn Williams or Chris Jones. He's never going to be quite on that level. But where he's playing at right now is a level that the Bills paid him to be, and a level that this defense is they're going to need him to be. You know what I forgot to? Because when we kind of do these post games, we don't have a whole lot of time to sit down and in just case we literally talk about shit what we were going to talk about until the camera started rolling here. But I want to go back to the offensive side because I want to give some props to somebody. I don't know if he played more than 3 or 4 snaps the whole game, quite frankly, but on a 3rd down play, Dalton Kincaid got rocked. He got hit pretty hard in the end zone, kind of a little bit shaken up. And then the Bills ended up going for it on 4th down. And Khalil Shakir came into the game. And he ran it was a great play by Josh Allen to be patient, to wait for the play to develop. But he ran a great inside slant route, put a good move on the guy, caught the ball, and scored a touchdown on 4th down. I thought that was a big play of the game to really, extend the lead and kind of put their stamp on this game. So I just want to mention Khalil Shakir, it just it's about guys when you get called on. It might be Sherfield at times. It might become Hardy or Kincaid, who I had 5 catches. He had another pretty good game early in his career. But anyway, I thought Khalil Shakir, I thought that was a big play in the game, and good on him to take advantage of an opportunity.
See, I could have easily, I didn't have it written down or anything, but I could have easily ended up talking about Shakir as if, he's somewhat prominent in the offense, as if he's getting burned, because I really had no idea that it was strictly all right. A Kincaid got dazed thing, so
yeah,
Shakir
he did.
ended up.
I mean, maybe he's not in the next play anyway, but he definitely Kincaid on that drive. It might have been 2 plays before that, but he definitely got his bell rung a little bit.
I like snap counts, man. I like the that's something that Sal got on early. He's always been one of the earliest. I was one of the first ones doing it. Snap counts are tell you good stuff. But I'm with you, man. Good football play. Kid needed it too. All right. And it wasn't just obviously Allen was fabulous in it. But it wasn't just a catch, man. I mean, he did what I complained about Cook not doing last week, although Shakir wasn't putting himself in quite the same spot of a vicious hit as Shakir was. But he dipped his shoulder and got, I think we had the first on the catch itself, but he went and made it a touchdown, man. It's a damn good play. And it's really, really nice to know, all right, that he's at least playable.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, if things, if enough guys get nicked up, you know, so that's good to see. He's a good guy. I'd rather have seen him make that catch just for his confidence. If we got to go that deep, all right, on the depth chart, I almost rather see him make that catch for 6 than a guy like Sherfield, who I don't know, man. Sherfield's going to be a good example, and I think he's still fine. I think, you know, he'll still make plays for this team, but Sherfield is trending towards a good example of becoming that training camp darling, where it's just like, all right, hold on, man, hold on. They can't have all these fun plays for everybody.
Yeah, you can't get the ball to Hardy on these, you know, these gimmicky plays, or Shakir in work in the middle of the field, Kincaid out there with Knox working the field, and then still find a role for Sherfield. I'm not sure he's even got a target through 2 weeks.
That's right. It's true.
I think you're right, but I think there could come an opportunity at some point where if Gabe Davis gets nicked up or Stephon, that's when you'll see Sherfield, a good insurance player, kind of like maybe like a Latavius Murray kind of deal with
yes.
But
you know, Murray's door opened and Sherfield's you know, just struggled to get on the field. I think let's say this. All right. Sherfield might be one of the biggest most affected guys by the 12 personnel as anybody. You know.
Oh yeah, I mean? Yeah, for sure.
Sherfield is definitely being affected by that, because when it's not 12, it's usually Hardy.
Yeah.
All right. When, you know, so when we're not rolling 4 dudes out anymore.
I know.
I mean, that's the thing.
I know.
All right. We ran a lot of 4 receiver stuff, and now we're not doing it. And that's Sherfield's the one who's you know, who's feeling the effects of that. Although he seems fine, man. He plays specials, and guy just seems like a gamer. So I got no problem. All right, having him in the wings, you know, if necessary.
You know, by the way, you said week 1, or I should say week 1, because we did the show. We didn't know the stats at the time, but the Bills played more 12 personnel than anyone in the NFL in week 1. 2 receiver sets. Obviously don't know the stats because we're recording shortly after the game for this week, but there was a lot more of the same. And you spoke of momentum, and it's something that I agree with you. I think it does matter. Shakir making that play, you speak of confidence, and I think that does matter. It was a blowout. It's the end of the game, but one other player that I wanted to kind of acknowledge, because Dane Jackson lost his job to Christian Bedford, and you know, that could demoralize you a little bit. He got into the game again, backups at the end, but he had, I thought, an excellent hit on I can't remember the player for the Raiders, but he knocked the ball loose and created a 3rd turnover. Again, the game was well at hand. It didn't really matter in terms of the result of the game. But those are the kind of things where, you know, you got that in your mind. You make that kind of play, and maybe he gets called upon to make a play. So good on him. But anyway, yeah. Man,
no. Dane Jackson's a culture guy, man. All right. Seriously, I'm not, I don't do a lot of culture-y stuff. Okay. But Dane Jackson's a culture guy. All right. I mean, he's kind of, you know, kind of like Levi Wallace was, but Wallace couldn't, and Wallace was, you know, a little longer in the tooth, a little less athletically gifted and whatnot. But, you know, Jackson, you know, fills in now for Tywan Jones as a primary gunner.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, you know, maybe he gave, you know, Benford went and took the job, but he still stays to 3. He didn't let himself become an afterthought, even to a first rounder. All right. Just get a fucking 3-back and call it a day, man. Get a 3-back and call it a day with that one. Jeez. I mean, of course he was going to be inactive. All right. Because it's not like anything happened with the defense last week that should change personnel. Of course he was going to be inactive, but you can't help but start to pile on as the inactives pile up.
Sure.
Did I even say his name that entire time? Talking about Kaiir Elam. All right. For those, you know, mom, I'm talking about Kaiir Elam. All right.
How do you feel about this? Got nothing to do with the game, just personal taste.
Oh, here comes the transition. Is this John Cougar Mellencamp favorite album?
No. This is still Bills related.
Fuck.
I like give me the blue jerseys and the white pants. I hate the all blue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's your take on the uniform? What's your favorite Bills uniform? Like when you watch them play, what do you want to see them in? I'm a big fan of what I saw today. Blue jerseys, white pants. I hate the all blue. It bothers me.
My God, dude. Honestly, as you're sitting there saying it, I'm like, I didn't even really register with me that they went blue on white today. Yeah. I'm so used to them now calling the blue on blue, the home primary, that I didn't even notice that it wasn't blue on blue today, bro.
I liked it today.
I have always been probably the most diplomatic person imaginable when it comes to the jersey, and in part it's because I truly love them all. I just love our colors. I love our combos. Are there things that I'd love to see us throw together? All right, they might look cool too. Sure, but the one that I dig in on, though, that I don't think most people feel the same about, is the white on blue. And that's because my first memory of the Buffalo Bills, all right, was the Joe Ferguson, Joe Cribbs teams, all right, wearing that white on blue.
I loved it.
All right. I love white on blue.
Me too,
bro. I love it. And we lose big ones, I guess, in white on blue. And that, of course, is going to drive, people's superstitions and stuff like that.
Are you superstitious?
No,
I'm totally.
I used to be, I used to be superstitious, but then I stopped drinking. My medication stopped working, and I became less superstitious. So I might be headed back. But no, man, there was a time when I was superstitious, and I am no longer. I'm
not a fan of the all white either. I hate the all blue the most, and I don't like the all white. Give me the white jerseys, blue pants, or blue jerseys. White pants all day. Anything from this game that we kind of haven't hit on that we want to talk about? I feel like we kind of covered everything. You got anything that I might have missed? We talked about them. I just can't state enough that an offense only works when your offensive line is blocking. And I just want to go back to that as my last Bills game thought here. The offensive line, the Josh's numbers are going to get a lot of headlines, and I think he threw to 9 different receivers. The running game's going to get a lot of headlines. But to me, the offensive line just played almost a flawless game today. And that's huge for me, man.
Yeah. I mean, they played a near perfect football game. I mean, it's like, obviously the stakes and I don't know about the opponent, but the stakes weren't nearly what they were. The opponent, being that it was the playoffs, wasn't nearly what it was. But this was Bills Patriots, playoff blowout perfect, but just different.
Yeah.
All right, a different kind of perfect.
This was more methodical.
The ground.
This was methodical.
The ground. I mean, the ground, man. 3 dudes, 3 running backs. All right, who did not look at all like they were going to be. All right, the running back stable this year when training camp started. All right, 3 running backs all involved, pounding the football. The 12 personnel. It's a major shift. It's a major shift right now, and I don't love Dorsey enough to feel like it's going to be this seamless shift in philosophy. But I don't even know if it's the right one. There are people that don't think it's the right one, but it seems like the one for now. When they get up, they're gonna bang the football. Are they gonna do it against Miami in 2 weeks? Not skipping over Washington, because this team is capable of laying an egg on the road. All right, and we're right back in panic mode. But if things go as we hope, all right, and we head into that Miami game. We head into that Miami game at 2-1. The offensive philosophy will be very, very interesting. I mean, look, man, we just got to win next week. We got to have Buffalo and Miami. That's a nice, sexy, early, meaningful, very meaningful football game. We got to get there. Got to get there 2-1.
Absolutely. The Jets, I still feel to this day, that the Jets, even with Aaron Rodgers down, that we didn't give them enough credit as a very good football team. I mean, obviously they're not the same team with Zach Wilson, of course. I kind of feel like this week too. I don't think the Raiders aren't I was going to say the Arizona Cardinals, but as we were taping this, the Cardinals are absolutely fucking shellacking the Giants. I have no idea what the score is right now because, again, we're taping this, around dinner time. But my point was the Raiders are not a bad team. They beat Denver last week. They got one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. They got one of the best receivers in the NFL. They got a quarterback who wins. Jimmy Garoppolo is the third highest winning percentage of any active quarterback. They showed that stat before the game. And he was 3-0 in debuts with teams, joining new teams too.
They still might be bad, bro.
I'm not saying they're not going to win 10 games.
They still might be bad, probably are. Speaking of bad, though, what division's looking really, although Washington just leveled up with Denver. So you were saying how terrible they look, but
did they really?
Yeah, 21 up.
Wow.
Boy, the NFC East is suddenly looking very top heavy because if the Giants suck, all right, that's a big story in the NFC East. But it's not that shocking. All right, I think Daboll just kind of got stuck having to marry Daniel Jones. But if they might suck, the Giants might suck, and the Commanders probably do too. So now it's 2-horse race in there. Man, I wish we could have. Believe me, I don't want to extend. It sounds like you've got wrap up in your voice, so I want to stay there. But,
not really.
But there were some interesting results, bro.
Yeah,
there were some interesting results. So you got a 0-2 Bengal team right now, man.
Yeah, look, I think you might have said this last week, where you look at the Bills' schedule. You let's just say you split with Miami and you split with the Jets, and then you sweep New England. There's 4 wins, and then there were some games that you got to have, and that today was one of them. The Raiders, Washington is definitely a gotta-have game. I feel like at this point, the Giants on Sunday Night Football, the way they look, you got to beat them. There's just no excuse to lose to them. You got Denver at home in primetime, and you got Tampa at home. Even though Tampa's 2-0 right now to start the season, I think they beat Chicago today.
That London trip's a funky, funky one to figure.
It is. But anyway,
because especially if it's coming off a Miami loss, now you could potentially be at 500, and you're kind of like,
sure.
Fuck, man. There's no home field advantage here in London that I'm going to get to 3-2.
But if you look at it again, big picture, and you say you go 4-2 in the AFC East, again, you sweep New England, you split with the others, you win those 5 games that I just said that should be easily winnable. They're all home games too, except for Washington next week on the road. There's 9 wins, and then you play these tough teams. You play Jacksonville. I still consider Jacksonville one of the quote unquote really tough games. Jacksonville, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Philly, Dallas. You win 3 of those and you still get to 12 wins. So it's kind of like big picture how I'm looking at it. I don't know. I guess one final takeaway, do you have, what's your single biggest takeaway from today in terms of watching this game and maybe how you feel about them and maybe you didn't feel about it 12:59 p.m.? Maybe it's something we already talked about, but what's your biggest takeaway?
Obviously, I don't think anybody's, hanging on the edge of their seat to hear what it is. So I'll give a nice boring one. I've given it several times already today. My biggest takeaway is the use of the running backs.
Yeah,
totally.
I completely agree.
Right there.
It could easily be that, but my biggest takeaway is just Josh Allen's body language. Just it looked like he was having fun playing football again. I think he learned a lot. When it's all said and done, I think he learned a lot from Monday. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to throw ugly interceptions. He's going to take a bad sack because he holds on to the ball too long. But I think he's learned that he's got to get rid of it quick. You know what I mean? He's got to get rid of his mind. I mean, he's got to move on quick. And that Jets game, everything seemed to stick with him. And in this game, he didn't really make many mistakes for us to see it. But I feel like Josh Allen's kind of, in fact, it's the title of this episode. I said sarcastically, grown up, because Dan Orlovsky said kids got to grow up, which I don't think he was wrong last week. I thought I thought it was a great take, but he was grown up Josh Allen today. That was my point. So grown up Josh Allen was my single biggest takeaway. We will start talking Sabres, by the way, on this.
You named the episodes?
What do you mean? Yeah,
you said the name of the episodes.
Yeah, everyone has a title. I mean, they're not like it. They're not all headline grabbing, titles. I think today's is like growing up Josh Allen leads Bills to Raiders romp or some shit like that.
Are we gonna get yelled at? Like, am I? Because I am like, I'm a very socially aware guy, and I got people out there. All right. So I just want to make sure I'm not going to get accused of ignoring some of the stories from the week about the Bills.
Sure.
Because I'm actually, you know what I mean? I am fine. I don't want to talk about them. All right. I'm just saying time's up. All right. And this was about the Bills. But I just don't want Joe Wins to be mad at me. All right, because I ignored important real life shit from the week. Okay,
there's a lot.
That's all I'm saying. All right, I don't ignore important real life shit. My man here doesn't either. But today was talking about the Bills. I'm sure one of these days we'll be able to talk about things. Okay, I'm just gonna put you on the spot anyways. I'm just gonna put you on the spot anyways. Terry Pegula's comments are proven to be true.
Then
he's gone. He's gone. Sold.
If they're proven to be true.
Okay. I don't
100%.
All right. As long as you can say that, because let me tell you something, bro. There's a lot of motherfuckers out there who wouldn't say that.
He's gone. If it's proven.
All right. Since we're here, I'm very comfortable with it that it's not too controversial or anything like that. I think Terry Pegula was a very easy target because of stupid shit that he said in the past. Now, I'm not here to denounce any of the things that Trotter brought up. All right. But they are two different people removed. All right. And I'm that guy. All right. I am that guy. When things start to become something you heard someone else said, and then, they heard it secondhand, man, now you're on like four hands here. So I'm glad that, that they were immediately refuted. I don't really care about how often they're talked about. I really was bringing it up to just a joke and peace out, but I saw you kind of like inviting. And yeah, I guess I knew what the answer was going to be. Otherwise I wouldn't have put you on the spot. But yeah, there probably aren't enough people saying, just so you know, all right, if it's ever proven to be true, we got a real fucking problem on our hands because they're probably gone.
Yeah. Listen, if that's proven to be true, gone. And I don't even think that's a question. And I know that was kind of almost like a rhetorical kind of question. I feel like that should at least it should be a rhetorical
I knew
question.
It was rhetorical to you, man, but not a lot of people out there. Probably.
Agreed. That's fair. I'll say this, and it's not just this instance specifically. To me, one or two things need to happen. Either A, proof, and there's nothing against Jim Trotter. I'm not saying that he's lying. That's all. I want to put that out there too. Okay. I may
have called him Jeremiah, the former linebacker from the Eagles. I don't know. Sorry.
Here's my deal. So if someone like that is accused, A, I want proof before I crucify not just Terry Pegula, anybody. Either A, give me proof, or B, other people start to emerge and say he said this, he said that.
I like that.
The more smoke there becomes, right? That's where the fire comes.
Right.
But if it's one singular person, no matter how respected this person may be, who is very respected, but let's just, he also has a really big beef with the NFL. I don't know enough about it to really offer opinions on that. What I'm saying is this. If multiple people start saying, well, yeah, Terry Pegula said this, then there's more smoke, and now I'm ready for that fire to catch. Right now, a singular thing is certainly not enough to make me say, get rid of him, he should be gone, or he's this, or he's that. Quickly, I will say, you on your Facebook, and obviously nobody here really on them. At least most people aren't going to know. They don't follow.
I was all right. I was all right with you showing that brief picture of my kids. I don't. My video's not coming up. My dissertation's not coming.
I'm not going to play your video.
I know you wouldn't do that without telling me.
No. I'm not going to play your video, but I will say that you made a video and you talked about, whether Terry Pegula said that or not. The biggest problem is that a lot of people do hear that shit on a day-to-day basis. What he was accused of saying. Those are things that we hear, people hear all the time. And what you were calling out, this wasn't even necessarily about Terry Pegula. This was about shit that people hear all the time and that they do nothing and that they allow it. And basically what you're saying is you hear somebody say what Terry Pegula was accused of saying, you better call somebody out when you hear that shit. That's what leads to a lot of the bullshit that goes on in the society because we just accept it or we just let it roll off. Well, it's not me that said it. I'm not a racist. I didn't say that. That's not how I am. But if you're one of your boys or one of your girls or something is walking around saying, really ignorant shit like that, it's kind of your responsibility to call it out.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Thanks for, saying what you said about it. You were complimentary of it. I don't think you liked it though. All right. I just I want to, I'm not sure that you liked it, which is the official.
Oh, the Facebook like?
Yeah, man.
Oh, I don't even think
I know you're terrible with Facebook.
Yeah, you're not very good with Facebook.
I'm not on. I'm not on. And that's listen, that's a big deal. Okay. That video, all right, is a product of a former existence on social media that I just could not live with anymore. All right. I just constant conflict. I wasn't educating, you know what I mean? I was just hopping on people and shit like that. Mm-hmm. So, that's a product of taking it a little easier and stuff like that. And it is fucking hard, man. It is so hard to call that shit out in uncomfortable spots, because it's just going to make everybody else uncomfortable when that happens. Mm-hmm. It puts a lot of tension in the room. Look, I totally ruined everybody's Bills Steelers opener like 2 or 3 years ago, whatever it was. Not that the Steelers weren't doing a good enough job of ruining it themselves. You know what I mean? But I totally ruined the vibe by just losing it on a guy who made a very similar comment to those that were made by Terry Pegula. And there was quite a bit of fallout from that. But it ain't easy, man. You want to fucking sit there and it's ruin everybody's time. It's hard. All right. It's hard. And maybe maybe a softer approach to educating that person, but like belittling them at the same time, because I just would have had to, maybe that would have been the way to go. Maybe a more learned Tone Pucks will act that way. But yeah, man, if the Pegula thing offers us one thing, it certainly offers us an opportunity to look at it from a broader perspective. So thanks for talking about it.
One other thing too,
unscripted, man. Like, we came into this one with nothing, and I feel good about how we rolled out here with absolutely nothing.
Well, what's kind of, I don't want to say inspired me, but maybe influenced me a little bit to at least
me. I just say it. Just say it. I inspire you.
No, it's not that. It's I know you or a lot of people may agree or disagree with a lot of what Tim Graham says on Twitter or what he talks about or does. But one thing I respect about Tim is Tim in a world full of Bills reporters and content creators that kind of stay away from some things, which in fairness, I will defend to the end of the earth, because I don't think it's a Bills beat reporter's responsibility to be reporting, or if there's news to report, they report on it, but offering their opinions on something when you're covering a team. You're not a columnist, you're a beat reporter. But anyway, let me get to my point here. Tim is one of the few people on his show, on his podcast, Tim Graham and Friends, who will talk about topics that most people stay away from on their shows. Things such as the Pegula stuff, or actually not really the Pegula stuff, but stuff like Mike Williams, the premature death, reporting a week before he actually died. He talked about that. He talked about, and which I'm going to ask you about before we go, the whole Stefon Diggs, Matty Gap thing that went on this week with the hot mic. He talks about shit like that. A couple of years ago in 97 Rock, when the racist comments that led to firings there, he had Marcel Louis-Jacques on, and they had a great conversation about that. So anyway, my point was Tim doesn't shy away from those things. And I kind of want to, at least to some extent, be along, the same lines as him. But I will say, when it comes to stuff like, just going back to Pegula for an example, the Buffalo News did do a story, and it might be, might not like the story, but per multiple sources, it was denied. I mean, it's not like they didn't touch it. But I don't need Sal Capaccio or Matt Perrine or Heather Prusak, people who cover the Bills. I don't need their opinions on these. We're the Charlie Specks of the world. Is Lou Moretti still around? I don't know.
I know the names, but couldn't even put them to the network.
There's a place where for people to do that. That's their work. It's not Sal Capaccio's work to be offering his opinion.
Lou Moretti,
stuff like that.
Now I remember who you mean.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm in total agreement with you on that, man. I'm in total agreement.
Let me ask you before we get out of here, because obviously the hot mic thing was a big story this week. I think it got way bigger than it ever should have been. Maddie made some comments that offended Stefon Diggs. Everyone I've talked to, and I've talked to multiple people that know Maddie well, say that those were not meant with malice, that it was kind of more tongue-in-cheek, like Stefon say, fuck off, F you to everybody and stuff like that. That's the That's what I was told, and I completely believe that. I don't know Maddie well, so I can't offer my opinion on that. I'm just telling you what other people have said. It was more tongue-in-cheek. And sometimes when you hear nasty comments, they got to be done with context and intent and purpose. Anyway, Stefan tweeted. It became a national story after that. He was offended, and he has a right to be mad and defend himself. I got no issue with that. I think my issue was with the Bills allowing it to get to that point. Like how there's like seems to be a disconnect at times between players and this organization. I feel like it should have been handled in-house. Like Maddie, she immediately apologized and it felt heartfelt on Twitter. She obviously didn't go to Stefan directly. Like why this organization, it should have never came down to Stefan Diggs tweeting. And I'm sure he didn't do the Bills any favors with these tweets. But again, it's kind of a touchy topic because he has a right to defend himself. So what's your opinion on how this played out all week? Which, by the way, she wasn't on, and we're taping this Sunday. I don't know if news will break, but she wasn't involved in the Bills post game this week. So I don't know if she's fired, suspended for a certain amount of time or what, as we tape this. But what's your take on that?
I wasn't super engaged with the story. It wasn't that interesting to me.
Right.
It just wasn't.
Agreed.
The fact that it happened, right, like a day or two after the Pegula stuff, a lot of people's radars were up. All right. You've got, there's just an element of that unease that came into this story.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like it was, and I'm not a big fan of hers. I just don't listen to a ton of that show.
Mm-hmm.
But I do, I do think she is, well respected in the room, and I think that it was just really, really taken out of context, man. It sounds to me like someone was saying, or almost implying, hey, you're the Bills person here. Why don't you be the one who says, hey, Steph, you get over here? And her response was, let me tell you what he would tell me. All right, if I approach Steph that way. And then she followed that up by saying, well, that's how he treats everyone. My thought on that was, that's how he treats Bills insiders just the same as he treats, a network. That's how he treats everyone in the media. Not like he's an asshole to them, but rather, he doesn't play favorites. Totally taken out of context. The Bills rarely make the mistake of not getting out in front of these things, but I think they froze for a second here. There's only it's just Steph. All right. It's what's up with Steph right now. Anyone who thought that all that shit was swept under the rug, man, I'm sorry. There was too much animosity there over too long a period of time for simply reconvening for a training camp and a few conversations, all right, was going to change that. It's the worst possible person for it to have happened with because, things are still, a little tenuous there. But winning helps a lot. It would bother me, all right, and a lot of things don't. It would bother me if she was fired.
Yeah, to lose your career.
Not fireable.
No, I agree. I feel like if this, instead of a hot mic vocally, if this was a tweet she sent out to people, I feel like it would have ended with an LOL or like a wiki face,
yes,
or something like that. my opinion.
Yes, if those spoken words had an emoji with them, how funny is that though? What do people always say about text? Well, you just can't get people's real, what they're really thinking from a text. Well, now it's like, yeah, actually, I bet you would have been better, all right, than just a hot mic.
In this case, I 100% think text would have actually provided more context and words. For once, I would advise people, you want to hear some really good takes on this. Again, go back last week on Friday. I'll maybe put a link in the show notes. Go listen to Tim Graham's show from last Friday. I thought he had a lot of interesting things to say, and he wasn't critical of Stefan. Again, he talked about Stefan has been nothing but professional with him before. It's not like he has any beef with Stefan. Tim kind of fanned the flames on Twitter a little bit too. Got that story going, just fighting with fans. But that's Tim. That's just
I know you're always like. You always have like a little precursor before you're going to compliment Tim with me because because I'm one of the guys, one of the many, all right, that he let have it on Twitter one time. I don't even remember what I was complaining about. I didn't really take it personally. But yeah, man, I mean, like Tim's becoming like the young godfather of the local media. But it's nice, and the evolving affiliations that these journalists have, especially the good ones, with places that let them speak more freely. You know what I mean? I think of like Larry Felcher or something like that. Is as much as he walked on water here, you know what I mean? He still had a boss. He still, not that Tim doesn't have a boss, but his boss was the Buffalo News. He had to be careful. He had, you know what I mean? There were interests there. I think Tim has a lot more freedom with the business model of a place like The Athletic. And he's the right person to have that freedom, because even though I don't listen to it, why should Tim be any different than listening to you?
To be fair,
even though I don't listen to it, I bet you it is very well laid out, and very fair, very well thought out. And I'm glad, man. I'm glad there's someone that that talks about it. But we just did it, right? Yeah. I mean, we just did it. Just two regular ass dudes. All right. Yeah. Went from talking football. Well, I had no intention of doing it, but we just found ourselves in a sensitive conversation. And I don't think we, necessarily failed in it. So, for those people out there that are saying, hey, why can't every Bills content dude have that conversation, just to let us know, all right, that your answer to my, hypothetical question to you would be the same for everybody. All right, then I don't know that that's necessarily an unfair expectation.
Yeah, for sure. And look, the pandering Pat's coming on at me again, baby. Because I also, at the same token, I listen to It's Always Game Day in Buffalo because I want to hear Sal and Matt talk football.
Yeah, I get you.
And I want to shout. I want to hear Matt Marino talk about football, man. We'll have these conversations.
I'm good with that. What's that pink shit you drink over there? Last two episodes, is it just pink lemonade, or is it a Kool-Aid kind of thing?
It's Crystal Light, no sugar.
Yeah.
Were you a Frazier guy? We're signing off now. But I'm looking at my retro stuff.
Yeah, I don't even mind the fact that this. No, we've been a little casual lately. So yeah, bringing Frazier in isn't as choppy as the John Cougar Mellencamp of last week. I was totally a Frazier guy. Fucking hilarious show, incredibly well-formed characters. The dialogue, the snooty Northeastern dialogue, now out in the Pacific. Northwest, the whole thing worked for me, man. Great show. And it didn't have the big, the massive storyline of like a MASH or something like that, but an absolutely fabulous series finale. All right. A fabulous one that makes you say, oh yeah, like a happy ending, not Sam saying, sorry, we're all close. You know how most finales have a little bit of sadness to it. Frazier, I mean, look, man, if you haven't seen it yet, sorry. All right. The episode is broke down, and he's either staying out there in Seattle, all right, and taking a promotion, or he's going to follow a love interest that, that really he thinks there could be something with. Mm-hmm. And it comes right down to him being on the plane and talking to his, to the passenger next to him on the plane about, how so many things favored staying in Seattle. But then as the show concludes, you hear it come over the plane. Do you remember this at all?
Yeah, as you're saying
it comes over the plane that he ends up in the city to pursue the love interest. And you're just like, fuck. Frazier was a great television
I love
show.
Happy endings, man. If you're going to watch a series, unless it's like a drama, then I get it. But when you're watching a comedy, a sitcom, give me a happy ending, man. I don't want to be sad.
Absolutely.
Sad at the end. Anyway, that debuted 30 years ago today. That was kind of my point. 30 years ago today, that
feeling debuted. It.
And one other one that debuted was 39 years ago. I wasn't a big fan of it, but Miami Vice.
Never did.
But I will say
my
this.
Thing.
Knowing you, growing up with you in your teenage years, you never rocked out any Don Johnson gear, did you?
No. I
it was whack, but I had one.
I even struggled with, rolling up pants and stuff like that, which I know wasn't necessarily my Miami Vice, but it's the same type of especially the same era.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Pants rolling up and shit like that. Miami Vice, you know what the local Miami Vice was what in Buffalo, because we wore sweatshirts. We couldn't fucking wear t-shirts and sport jackets.
Right.
All right. What was the Miami Vice gear for for this region that kind of said you were Miami Vicey?
I don't remember.
IOU, bro.
Oh yeah.
IOUs.
Yeah.
IOUs. If Don Johnson, Miami Vice would have been like Don Johnson on like an ice cutter in the fucking Northeast. All right, he would have been rocking an IOU shirt.
Miami Vice wasn't a great show, but it had a huge influence on fashion for that time and good music too. Plus, it was one of the first TV shows that really
still dressing like that.
Yeah,
dudes out there still not Don Johnson. No, just general, man. It became a look. It became a look.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, between the music, they would have like Phil. I remember Phil Collins was on there. There was a lot of good.
Overrated.
Music. Phil. That's not terrible. I don't completely agree, but that's not the worst music take I could think of.
All right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, all right, we're gonna get out. That is gonna do it. All right, everybody, give Tone Bucks a follow. Get him up to 22 followers this week. At Tone Bucks. Thank you to all you guys.
And that's good enough.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening again. It's always much more fun. Not going to even try to front and lie about how, going to be objective and it don't matter if the Bills win or lose. Bullshit. It does matter if the Bills win or lose. The Bills win. It makes for a fun week here and a long week coming up on the podcast. I'm going to have Anthony Marino with me tomorrow, Thursday night live, which me and Tone will start to break down some hockey pretty soon. Looking forward to it. But anyway, Chris Baker is going to be with me live Thursday night from Imperial. We will be talking Sabres Prospect Challenge. So a big week coming up. Talk to you soon.